Why is it so hard to get back to the moon? I mean, in the 60s and 70s, we went to the moon. We did it with the computers that had less processing power than the chips in your electric toothbrush today. We have supercomputers, we have AI, and yet still, NASA just pushed back Artemis 2, our first crewed lunar mission, in over half a century to March 6, 2026. Between 1969 and 1972, NASA successfully landed 12 astronauts on the moon across six Apollo missions: 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17. All crewed landings took place during this 41-month period. And that's 12 people total who have walked ever on the lunar surface, like Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and the last one, Gene Cernan, on Apollo 17 in 1972. So, why does this seem so much harder now? Are we losing the race to our own history? And think about it. It's been 54 years, and out of those 12 legends, only 4 are still alive today. Can you imagine? We have got generations who have grown up without seeing a live moon mission. It's like this epic chapter of human achievement just paused. And I was really looking forward to the Artemis 2 mission. It's the second of the 6 planned missions meant to bring humans back, not just for a visit, but to stay. We are talking about building habitats, doing long term science, and setting up sustainable presence on the moon. Unlike Apollo's quick hops, where astronauts were on the surface for just a few days, Artemis is about laying the groundwork for a lunar base, maybe even mining resources like water ice at the poles or some another valuable minerals. But even though we have been to the moon countless times robotically since then with probes like India's Chandrayaan and China's Chang'e missions, getting humans back is proving way tougher than expected. But the Artemis 2 was recently delayed again due to, you guessed it right, a hydrogen leak. Now, safety first, obviously. What's a few weeks in the grand scheme of things? But the way it happened is what's frustrating. During the latest wet dress on February 2, 2026, engineers spotted signs of a hydrogen leak as soon as they switched from slow filling to fast filling the tanks. They pushed through and got down to T minus 5 minutes, which is impressive. But it wasn't perfect. A follow up confidence test on February 12 showed lower leak rates after replacing some seals. But then a new problem popped up: reduced hydrogen flow due to a clogged filter in the ground equipment. They fixed that by swapping the filter. If all goes well, March 6 or 7 could be the go date. But it highlights why we are struggling and why is it so difficult to do it again. Well, here's the rocket science 101 on why this keeps happening. The SLS Space Launch System uses the liquid hydrogen. Hydrogen is the Godzilla of fuels and it has the best miles per gallon specific impulse of almost any chemical propellant. But the hydrogen molecules are also the smallest in the entire universe. They are so tiny that they can literally slip through the molecular structures of the seals and joints that would easily hold another fuels. But engineers used a trick, pausing the hydrogen flow to let the seals warm up and re expand. It was a clever hack, but it's a band-aid on a fundamental problem. The same issue plagued Artemis 1 in 2022. It's been years and we are still fighting the same leak. I mean, hydrogen is efficient, but it's a nightmare to contain. In fact, kerosene is basically a higher grade jet fuel. It's stable at room temperature, no cryo cooling needed. Soyuz and SpaceX Falcon 9 still uses it today. Kerosene is less efficient, a specific impulse around 300 to 350 seconds, and it's dirtier also, spitting out the soot and CO2, but no leaks like this. Today, sustainability is a bigger deal. Liquid hydrogen only produces water vapors. Sounds awesome for the environment, right? Except SLS uses a solid rocket booster SRV, which are a different story. They produce hydrochloric acid HCl and aluminum oxide Al2O3, which contribute to the acid rain and ozone depletion too. And NASA even studied how these particles affect the atmosphere. But why not use the liquid methane like what SpaceX uses in the Starship? It burns to CO2 and water. It's cleaner than kerosene and easier to handle than hydrogen. A better alternative, and efficiency is solid too, around 350 to 380 specific impulse. Starship's Raptor engines are a prime example. They have been test fired hundreds of times with a fewer leak dramas. And not only that, methane can be produced on Mars via ISRU, in situ resource utilization, turning CO2 and water into fuel. Huge for sustainability. Then why NASA is opting SLS over all other options? The answer is politics and paperwork. Policy and funding lock them in. NASA was mandated to use the heritage technology from the shuttle era tech, reusing the RS-25 engines from the shuttles. Those are literally refurbished engines that actually flew on the shuttles. And because of this, there was no room to reinvent the machines for methane fuel. NASA was locked into a 40-year-old design architecture while trying to meet the 21st century safety standards. So we didn't just stop going to the moon, we dismantled the machine that got us there. Finally, we have to talk about the risk tolerance. In the 60s, it was a literal space race against the Soviet Union. NASA took risks that would be unthinkable today. The machinery was simple, a fewer sensors to flag every anomaly. They just went for it, like with Apollo 13's mid mission fixes. But today, the safety is paramount. Post Challenger and Columbia, we have got layers of redundancy, simulations, and zero tolerance for big risks. Today, the SLS has thousands of sensors, and if one tiny valve is off by a fraction of a percent, the whole mission stops. Missions are safer, more sustainable, but that means delay. In the 60s, they might have just sent it. The hardware has aged, the team is new, and the stakes are higher than ever. But Artemis isn't just a sprint, it's a marathon for long term presence. It's an actual rocket science indeed. It's not a cliche, it's a physical reality. But as we watch the Mars 2026 launch window approach, we are reminded that the ghosts of past are just a hurdle on the way to the future. What do you think? Is the SLS the right rocket for the job? Or should we have started from the scratch with something like Starship? Let me know in the comments and I will see you in the next video.